Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 1939's The Wizard of Oz, starring Judy Garland as Dorothy. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is swept away from her home in Kansas and transported to the land of Oz, where she must join up with some new friends to find her way home again. And so we have The Wizard of Oz. So guys, today's review was requested by no one. This one I just wanted to talk about because it's on the poster, so I'm going to talk about it. And for me, The Wizard of Oz has always had a special place in my heart because it's one of the first movies that I ever remember seeing in my life. I remember when I was about 6, maybe 7 years old, whenever me and my family would go around to my nan's house, I would always want to watch this film. I don't know what it was about this film, but I always used to love this film as a kid, despite not having actually seen this film in about 20 years, and not really remembering much about it. I always knew that this film was special to me. So I was hoping that for not watching this film for nearly 20 years, that it would still be as good as I remembered it being. So, what do I think of The Wizard of Oz now? Well, it's very clear to see why The Wizard of Oz has just become an absolute classic. The performances, while not amazing, are definitely iconic and very memorable. The songs and music transcend the movie itself and just feel like their own separate entities. As this was one of the first in-colour productions, I imagine it was just so mind-blowing when Dorothy steps out of her house and enters the land of Oz. I mean, even still to this day, it is a pretty magical moment to behold. That moment when the movie transitions from the grainy, black and white, brownish colour into the vibrant colours that you see in the land of Oz is nothing short of magical. The actual story and plot itself isn't the most subtle or nuanced of stories, but what The Wizard of Oz lacks in those qualities, it certainly makes up for in timelessness and relatability. Ultimately, I wouldn't say that The Wizard of Oz is actually about the magical land or the magical creatures or necessarily going from Munchkin Land to the Emerald City. Upon first glance, The Wizard of Oz can seem like it's more plot-driven than character-driven, but at its heart, this is a story about self-discovery. Each of the 4 characters thinks that they're actually going to the Emerald City in order to find something physical. Dorothy wanted to go home, the Scarecrow wanted to find a brain, the Tin Man wanted to find a heart, and the Lion wanted to find courage. But in The Wizard of Oz's wonderful simplicity, it's that story about how these things, you had them inside you all along. The Scarecrow didn't need to find a brain because he was already smart. The Tin Man didn't need to find a heart because he already had heart enough in his character. And the Lion didn't need to find courage because he was already brave enough. As for Dorothy, she wished that she could actually get away from her home, but in actual fact she realises that everything that she would want in life is right at her feet, and that in the end her family were the most important thing to her. And that for me honestly is one of the reasons why I think that The Wizard of Oz has stood the test of time. Because it's not really the plot itself, it's more the message that the film puts forward. And honestly, it's such a wonderful and timeless message. But honestly, despite all the good things that The Wizard of Oz has going for it, I didn't enjoy myself watching this one as much as I did when I was a kid. But I wouldn't really say that it's anything that the film did particularly wrong. It's just that I wasn't really enjoying myself watching this one. I think maybe it's because that some of the aspects of the movie, or to be fair, quite a lot of the aspects of this film, are very dated. And realistically, I would say these things are kind of hard to overlook and do make the experience a little bit hard to watch. Again, that's not to say this film is bad, far from it. It's just, like I said, there are a couple of things within this which do make it a little bit harder to watch now than it was when I was a kid. I mean, one thing I do kind of find funny is that a couple of years ago, there was a meme going around that Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't have an Oscar. It wasn't that long ago, I imagine quite a lot of you remember it. And I remember hearing that, wouldn't it be funny if someone made a movie about Leonardo DiCaprio's life and they won an Oscar for their portrayal of Leonardo DiCaprio. Obviously, that didn't end up happening because Leonardo DiCaprio eventually did win an Oscar, but it's funny that that actually happened for Judy Garland, because a couple of years ago we did have the Judy movie where Renee Zellweger played Judy Garland and won an Oscar for her portrayal of this real-life person who never actually ended up winning an Oscar in her lifetime. Now, I haven't actually seen the movie Judy. I may end up watching it one day, but I just feel like this comparison is kind of a bit funny. Overall, guys, even though there are a couple of minor issues with The Wizard of Oz, You cannot deny that this movie is an absolute classic. This movie has done so much for cinema. The characters, songs, music, settings, message are all iconic as hell. And all of these things aid in making The Wizard of Oz what it is. Timeless. But do I think you guys should watch this one? Now, I am kind of a bit mixed on this because, on the one hand, like I've said, absolute timeless classic, so many great things going for it. So for that reason, I would say watch it. But my own personal recommendation, watching this movie now, if you've never ever seen this film before, I wouldn't personally go out of your way to watch it. The only reason, like I said, that you should watch this film is because it's a classic. Watching this film by itself, ignoring all of those things, I don't think this film is that enjoyable nowadays. I mean, if you still absolutely love this film, then more power to you. There is so much to like about it. But if you've never actually seen the film yourself, then I'm kind of a bit mixed on whether I should recommend it to you. So I would say watch the film because it's an absolute iconic piece of cinema. But at the same time, I don't think nowadays this film is for everyone. Okay guys, that's my review of The Wizard of Oz. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think I should watch next? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!